Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reviewing a very insane set, and that is the Lego Arkham Asylum, and this thing is just huge, coming in with 2,953 pieces. This is set number 76300, and this is 18 plus. And this set retails for $300. Now, that is quite a big price, but in this video we will see if that is worth it. So yeah, here's a look at the top of the box art showing all the minifigures, and in this set there is 16. And you can see it looks really nice with the 18 plus box art here in the background. You know, we got Batman, Robin, Batwing, Batwoman, Catwoman, and a bunch of villains. Here's the side box art showing the part of the Arkham Asylum, and then here's the back showing how it's a modular and how you can display all the figures, and of course all the different play features and rooms. Now, the first figure we're going to be taking a look at is Batman. Now, we've seen this figure before with one exception, and that is the flowy cape piece from 2019 making its return, and it looks very nice here. Now, you can see you can take the helmet off here, or the bat cowl, and you can see it's just a very normal face, a bad face for what I think Bruce Wayne should look like in Lego form. And you can see how the cape is very flowy and very nice, and you can hit some dynamic poses with it. Him, you know, posing on a gargoyle or whatever. Here's a look at the back printing, and you see it looks pretty nice overall. And his accessory is a batarang. Next up, we have Damian Wayne Robin. Now, this is the newer style of Damian Wayne Robin, and he looks fantastic in Lego form with the gray and the black. One of the best figures in the set, and there's just a bunch of detail here, which looks fantastic. And he has one of the best cape pieces in the set, and I love how it's spiky, and it is dual-sided. So you can see the black and then the yellow, and he has some very nice back printing. Now here's a look at the other facial expression, and you can see he's kind of scared there. The next figure is Batwoman, and this is the second iteration of this figure. You can see it is slightly different with the lines coming up in the torso and the new cape, which is fantastic. You can see the torso there, it's just the lines, and you know, the cowl is very nice, and her accessory is a grapple gun, which does look fantastic. And here's a closer look at that cape, which you can see is again dual molding. You can see the red and the black, and it is meant to look like she's gliding, which is very nice. Here's a look at what's under that cowl, and you can see it is just a pale face with goggles, which is okay. Definitely not a lot of detail, and there's two expressions here, and you can just pop that back on and see how that works. The next figure we'll be taking a look at is a controversial one, to say the least, but that does not mean it is not detailed, and that is Batwing. Now, he looks fantastic, so much detail. I do love the silver they have using there, and, you know, all the detail, the different shades of silver. And the bat logo there looks very nice. Overall, the detailing on this is just fantastic. And you can see a look at the face print. And you can see the helmet mold, which is the same as the Batman Forever Batmobile. And it does look very nice. You can also remove the cowl, which reveals the head print, which looks very nice. I'm not sure if this is exclusive or not, so let me know in the comments. But you can see it is a dual-sided facial expression, with one being scared. And you can see the wings here. Now, this I'm not the biggest fan of. I just don't think they look very good. And, you know, they're kind of wonky and out of proportion. But I do think that the sticker looks nice of the back. And you can remove that and see the pieces they use for that. Not a big fan overall of how that was built. But here's a look at the back printing, which I do think looks nice. And the next figure I'm going to be taking a look at is Catwoman. And this is all exclusive except for the legs, which I do really like how they added it and matched it with the torso printing. I do really like all the detail on the torso print with the little cat belt. And you can see she does also have a whip and a little piece which says Meow Bites, which is Meow Bits, which is really cool. And here's a better look at that whip, nothing exclusive there. And the head print does look very nice, and now they are using the Black Panther piece for the top of the head, which is very interesting. Here's a look at the back printing there, and you can see nothing too special about it. It does look nice, however. Now, the next figure we're going to be taking a look at is Joker, and this is overall a very good figure. However, it is pretty disappointing that he is in his Arkham jumpsuit, and we're going to be taking a look at this once because it does come in a bunch of other figures. You can see all the detail there and the back, which is Arkham Asylum, which I really do like. And interestingly enough, he is given a new hairpiece for the Joker, which was used in Lego One Piece. And I do think it looks pretty nice here. I would have preferred a different hairpiece, though. And he does have the Bane gun, which does look very, very cool. It is stickered. Next figure we're going to be taking a look at is Harley Quinn, who is also in the Arkham jumpsuit, which is okay, I guess. But overall, this is a lot in the style of a Lego Batman movie. Harley Quinn with the roller skates especially. And, just the style of the hair. And you see her hammer there is really, really awesome. You can see there's sticker detailing there, and it's just built very, very nice. Now, taking a look at the head print, you can see it is Harley Quinn blowing a bubble gum. And you can see it's the same hair that was used in the old Harley Quinn. And here's the other face. Next figure I'm going to take a look at is one of the best figures in the set, and that is Poison Ivy. And she just looks fantastic overall. This is our first time getting an all-green version of Harley Quinn, and it looks fantastic. This has to be the best Harley Quinn we've gotten yet. With it reusing that hairpiece from Glenda from Wicked, it just works perfectly for this. You can see her accessory is a flower. Now moving on to the head print, you can see it does look very, very nice. And here's the other side of that, along with the back printing. Now the next figure I'm going to be taking a look at is Riddler. Again, this is a fantastic variation of the Riddler. We haven't got the Riddler in quite a while, and he is all exclusive, and I do think it looks fantastic. Starting with the hat piece, which we've seen before used for Riddler, it does look good here, and the head print does look fantastic. And you can see his other facial expression, which doesn't have one actually because of the hat. And there's another look at that back printing there, which has a bunch of question marks, which looks very, very nice. He also has a crowbar for a cane to represent the question mark. Next we're going to be taking a look at is Mr. Freeze. And we have seen this figure before, particularly in the January wave of this year. Now he does have an addition, and that is the back piece here, which is exclusive to this figure. Here's a look at the back printing there, which I do think looks fantastic. Now the next figure we have here is Penguin. Now this is nothing short of a very good figure, except for that Arkham jumpsuit, which is a shame to be seeing again. But you can see the head print is based off the Arkham video game, which looks very good here, along with the return of the collar piece and black hat, and he has an umbrella accessory. Now here are the little minions here, which are actually penguins, and they do look really, really cool here. Here's a better look at the back of those and how they're built. Now the next figure we're going to be taking a look at is Bane, and this is a pretty decent figure. I will say it is a very big shame that he has the Arkham jumpsuit, but that face print there is just fantastic. He also has a dumbbell for his accessory, which you can see here, which is just made up of 3 pieces, and I do think that this figure is really good. I just wish he should have been bigger overall. Now here's a closer look at that face printing there, which I think is the most detailed Bane face printing we've gotten yet. Here's a look at that back accessory, which is supposed to be his Venom tank, and I do think it captures that pretty nicely. Now here's a look at the back of his head printing, which you can see the tube for his Venom tank. Now the next figure I'm going to be taking a look at is, which is definitely one of the weakest figures in this set. The only thing exclusive about this is the head printing, which is pretty good overall, but he does have the Arkham jumpsuit. Here's a look at the back of that. He definitely should have been bigger and had torso printing. Now, the next figure I'm going to be taking a look at is Scarecrow, and overall, this is a pretty weak figure. Again, he definitely should have had a round hood to make it look more like the Arm Games. Overall, the head print does look very, very nice, and it is an okay figure overall. The next figure we're taking a look at is the 2 guards included in this set, and nothing really exclusive about these 2 guards except they have different head printing. On the left, we have one head printing, and on the other, we have another printing. Overall, I do think other figures should have taken this spot, but I do think it's a nice inclusion. Now, the first build we're going to be taking a look at is the little carrier to hold the villains, or the guards like it shows in the box, but this is a very simple build overall. You can have the guards kind of holding on the sides, but how this works actually is you kind of just unclip it like this, and it doesn't really matter how you unclip it as long as it separates, but it is very simple to unclip. And then you just kind of place a figure on in there here, like Joker here. And, you can just place them, and then it just connects like that, which is very simple and does look good. You can see the Joker all locked up in here, which does look very nice. Now, you can also load them into the Arkham Asylum van, and here's how that works. You just kind of load them up in there, just toss them in there, which does work very, very nicely. And, of course, you can just close them back up and then transform to Arkham Asylum. Now, taking a closer look at this Arkham Asylum van or ambulance or, whatever it is, it does look very good. However, those sticker detailings are just atrocious. The color mismatch is terrible. But it does have some very nice building techniques, such as the back. And you can see the details on the side with the trim there, which does look very nice. But, again, those stickers just throw you off. And here's a look at the front, which is the best part to build, I will say. Here's another sticker there. There's just so much building techniques that are very cool in the front here, even though it doesn't look like it. And of course, you can spin these little mirrors here. And then opening it on up like this, so you can see the interior, which again, you can see Joker chilling in there in the container. And then you have 2 tranquilizing guns. And it is very simple to remove. And you can place some figures in there to drive, particularly the guards. Now here's the main build, which is the Arkham Asylum. And I can't stress this enough. This build is just amazing. Everything that's put together, it just looks fantastic. Starting off with the front of the gates here, you can see how that's kind of built up there with the different pieces. And of course, you can swing those open there. You can also see how there's some missing plates in there. And unfortunately, you can't drive the van in there. It just does not work, which is very unfortunate. You can't really load them up, or you're going to have to take them through the courtyard. But that is fine. Now moving on in there, you can see the different techniques used to put this together. And you can see there's different places without plates, which does look interesting. And here is a little sticker detailing, which is a sewer crate with Killer Croc scratching on it. Now here is the gate, and you can see how they achieve that in the Arkham Asylum sign here, which is very, very hard to put together with all the sticker detailing, but it does look very, very nice. Now here's a look at the side gates here. And the other side gates here. While interestingly enough, there is a little broken off section here, which is pretty cool to display. But unfortunately, there isn't enough pieces to fix that. And there's a little pipe with a reference to Clayface. And there's a stick here which says, "Caution, hitchhikers may be supervillains." But there is a little connection here, which we'll get to later. Then moving on to the side, you can see there's some pieces to pose with. Now here's a look at the stairs which lead into the Arkham Asylum. And there's some plant pots there. And some lights, and you can see the doors there, which can open up, of course. And then here is the Arkham Asylum logo here with a extra minifigure, which is supposed to represent a statue, and it does so very nicely. Let's take a closer look at that. You can see the detailing here with the handcuffs and the lock, and the wing piece is very, very nice. And there is another head print that you can look at, and that is the unvandalized version, which, let's see here, I gotta flip it around. And there we go, there is the unvandalized version, which does look very nice on display too. Now moving up, you can see the different details that put this Arkham Asylum all together, and I do really love how it is. You can see all the different trim detailings, and it does look very, very nice. Now moving on to the left here, you can see there's some greenery leading up and some vines, which continues on this side there, and then there's a reference to Poison Ivy leaking out of her cell gate, which we'll get to later. And there is this little gate which you can take off if you want to. It's supposed to represent like it's chained in there, so you know, you can take that off if you want. There's a little camera right there too, and there's some studs to place some figures. But yeah, overall, there's so much detail on the set. Then moving on to the left, here's a closer look at that greenery, and you know, it's just some details to give the building some life. Here there's also another gate and another camera, and I will say the cameras do look very nice on this set using that new piece. Now here's a little connection point because this is a modular, of course, and here is the alleyway. Even though it is pretty small, there's some piping here leading to the top of the module, and unfortunately there is a hole which is unfixable, and I do think it is very distracting. Here's a little power box, and if you pull on that, it leads to one of the play features of the set, which we'll get to later. Now the dumpster can also do the same thing, you just pull on that. And here, coming from the pipe is frozen water, which has a little snowman in there, and that is a reference to Mr. Freeze freezing the water coming from the drain. Not sure how he escaped, but, you know, it is very cool. Nonetheless, here's a little box, which some LEGO DC fans would recognize is a reference to Banana Co., which was in a LEGO set. Now here is a little door here, which says not a revolving door, and there's a sticker that reveals it is a restricted area, and there's some graffiti there making it unrestricted. Of course, that can open. Now, taking a look at the dumpster itself, it does look very nice. And, of course, you can slide that like I've already shown. But you can see you can just kind of take it off there. Now, this is the same as the other Arkham modular dumpsters. And you can just kind of open it on up here, revealing a bunch of details, such as a bunch of Lego studs, which is a reference to Lego video games, with all the different colored studs as the form of currency for the LEGO games, which is a very, very nice reference. And this piece here is really nice because you can take it and removing the clay from this section of the building, which I said we'd get to later, you just kind of remove that clay. And actually what you can do is you can place this little two-piece, and you can connect it through the pin here, and it is another connection for the modular system here, which is a very, very nice detail there, and display option, which adds a lot to this set, and it is really cool. Now, you can also remove that there, which makes it look better. But yeah, that is a very, very cool detail. My favorite reference in the dumpster, which is a Batman comic with Batman and Robin representing the first Batman Christmas story, because this is technically a Christmas set with 24 bags making it an advent calendar, which is a very cool detail. Here you can see there's another massive hole, which is very unfortunate. I do get if they wanted to include this, but they should have had enough pieces to cover it up. And moving on to the outside of the watchtower does look very nice with some sticker detailing saying "Smile, you're on camera" there, and it does look very good. You can see how it is kind of built up there, and some more stickers and some speakers or lights. And here is the side here again with the AC unit. Now moving on to the top of the roof, we have a little light there which you can move back and forth and up and down, which is very cool, the different ranges of motion. And there's a little stud there which you can place a figure, or what I'd like to place is the Lego penguin. And, you know, it just fits pretty nicely. And here we have a little sticker representing Harley Quinn. Moving on here to how the roof was built is just amazing, the techniques that were used. And the tip of it, which is sharp, and the different pieces used for that arch there. And it looks very fantastic. And you can see just how it was built is just very, very cool. And here we have another sticker which shows some cobwebs and some boards. And here we have a stud which you can place a figure on, which is the top of the watchtower here. And spinning it around, you can see the different ways the roof was built with the different fence pieces using as the guardrails. And then here we have a Riddler sticker, and then here we have a penguin sticker, which looks very nice. And then here we have the chimney here, which I do think is very cool, with a sticker that says Harley plus Ivy with a heart around it, which is a reference to Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. Now here is the rooftops with various details. Here's a look at the back of the tip of the roof, and with another sticker like that. And then here we have the water tower on the roof, and this is very cool. It says a ha ha ha. It has a ha 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 sticker. And opening on up, you can see there's another reference to Clayface with the mud piece being used there. Now moving on to the jail cells, you can see here, these are the outside of the jail cells. We have a sticker that says "Vote for Harvey Dent" with ha ha ha. And then a Metropolis logo, which is a reference to Superman, of course. Now overall, I do think that these are very, very cool. Here there is more connection points for the modulars. Now taking a look at the jail cells themselves here, you can see this one is very, very bland with just a jumpsuit which is being represented there with those orange pieces and no bed or anything. And you can also slide those doors open, which we'll get to later. Now placing a figure in there, you can see we can put Scarecrow in there. And then if we slide the doors open, you can see how the function works, which is very, very cool. Now, it is a little bit gimmicky at times, but most of the times it works very well. Now, here we have a bed, which is very cool to have here, but it is reused in all the cells with beds. It is very unfortunate because most of the cells are very, very bland, except for one, which we'll get to later. And you'll see the fence piece that they used for in between the jail cells to represent as sort of like the prison gate that they can't get through, or the prison bars like they do have in real jail cells, which is a nice touch. And then here we have, which is very interesting, a little hole dug out here. And what you're meant to do is take the bed here and cover up the hole. That way, one of your figures can't escape. And here is how that looks with the figure inside of it. Taking Killer Croc, for example, we can just kind of slide them in there and have them escape through the jail cell. Or if you want to have them come this way, you can. But it is a very cool feature to have here, and then you can cover it up with the bed. Moving on to the upper level of cells, which features one of the best cells here, the best cell here, which is meant to be Poison Ivy's cell here. And you can see all the vegetation for Poison Ivy here, and you can place her inside, of course, and it is very cool. And that's why you see the foliage coming out of the front, and the other jail cells are the same. Very bland overall jail cells wise. But this set definitely makes up the missing details from the jail cells and the rest of the interior, which we're going to take a look at now. First, as you mentioned, there's also an egg when you pull the power box. And here's another view of you sliding the doors open. And here's Riddler getting crushed by them. But taking a look at the interior, you can remove this into 3 different sections: the roof, the second floor, and it is very cool, the modularity of the set, but of course it is a modular, and you can see all the different sections and floors, and all the details and how it's all laid out. Now, taking a look at the entranceway of the Arkham Asylum, I just want to point out how well built that is right there. And then here we have the first room, which is the entranceway, which has an x-ray there to enter the jail cell area, and you can see that sticker detailing, which is very cool. And you can see how the rooms are laid out, so you just kind of walk through. Here's the area with all the jail cells here, and there's a ladder there, which is very cool to make your way to the second floor. And there's a camera there again, with a sign saying no coins, umbrellas, playing cards, or coolers beyond this point, with some graffiti. Now, making our way into this room, which is probably the coolest room of the Arkham Asylum here. Again, you can see how the x-ray is, which is very cool. Now, taking a look at this room, and you can see how it's kind of laid out very interestingly, with this reference to Dark Knight Returns, which is very cool. And this security cameras here with Joker, Scarecrow poisoning the gas, Bane lifting some weights, and a static television. Here we have a doorway with the clock there, and of course that door opens here. Now here we have the little area where the inmates get their picture taken, along with a camera and a little Clayface reference there. And then here we have Scarecrow here with this little height measurer with reference to King Shark at the 7-foot mark. And here we have the little computer area, and the computer screen shows Clayface getting his mugshot, which is a very, very cool reference. Unfortunately, there's no Clayface included. You can also see the yellow and black tiles, which is meant to break up the rooms, which is very cool. And here is the maximum security area, and here's a closer look at those tiles. Along with this computer, which says open cell doors, and there is also some yellow and green liquid there, with a very, very cool sticker on the blackboard, which has multiple references, such as a reference to Joker, the spoon missing, and the layout of the Arkham Asylum, and, an escape plan for one of them, and some math equations. Here we have another camera, and there is a RA, which stands for radium tile there, and a little file with a coffee stain on there, which is cool. And here's the maximum security door itself, which is very nicely built here, and of course you can open it on up, revealing the inside where you're meant to put one of your figures, such as Joker, but unfortunately you can't put him in on the stretcher. It just doesn't fit like it shows on the box, and you just can't close it all the way, which is very unfortunate. And here is the Joker out of the stretcher placed, and of course you can close that on up. Which leads us to the second floor. Now let's take a look at this. And here is the layout there, which is very nice, and we'll get into all the details here. But the first thing we're going to take a look at is the watchtower. Now you are able to remove the watchtower just like this, popping it off, and you can see the watchtower up close. You are able to remove the roof like this, revealing the interior of the watchtower, which is very cramped, but that does not mean it's not including a bunch of details, such as a spilled coffee mug, which is carrying Scarecrow's gas. Here we have the control panel, which shows a reference to the Batman Arkham video games, which has a very similar bat logo there, along with a red button and a microphone. This is cool because it leads to the watchtower and the rooms here, and it's meant to look like it exploded, which is cool, and you can see how it just connects there. Now, making our way up to the hallway here, which has a water container, which is poisoned, and you can see how that's kind of built there with the cups, and I really like how it's meant to look like it's poisoned, which is very cool. And here we have how it looks from above, and you can see there's a little stud to place Scarecrow. And here we have a little calendar here with Calendar Man marking the day September 20th, which is Batman Day, along with a window there. And here we have another sticker detail, which says menu, laughing fish soup, chicken legs, and snow cone, which is meant to be the lunch menu, of course, along with another x-ray, which is pretty much the same, except for that sticker detail is missing the spoon. And then we have a fire extinguisher, which is very nice, along with the camera. And here is the trophy area, which is a very, very cool inclusion, with a owl, which is a reference to the Court of Owls, an eraser, which is a reference to Eraser Man, and a coffee mug, which can be a reference to multiple things. Here is Dr. Harley Quinzel's office, which is pretty compact with a lot of detail. And here we have the doctorette for Hugo Strange, who unfortunately is not included in the set. And here we have a little couch where the patient can be laying down on, and a coffee mug, a reference to Mad Hatter potentially, and a red sofa. Here we have a Most Wanted poster for Harley Quinn and an Employee of the Month poster for Dr. Harley Quinzel, who are both the same character. And here we have a bunch of details with a cassette player to show all the inmate files, with the inmate file being for Killer Croc there, and Two Faces coin, which is a cool inclusion. Here we have the jail block, which has a ladder with some greenery, along with a camera once again, and you can see how the ladder's there with the foliage sticking out, and that is very neat. And we do have another sticker, which is the same version as the one on the first floor, minus the graffiti, along with a red button and a camera. Now here is the roof here, which you've already taken a look at, but there is some detail on the inside, such as this crossword puzzle, which is a reference to the Riddler. And of course it does say riddle me this, which is very neat. Unfortunately, there is no Riddler trophy. And under the roof over here, we have a reference to Condiment King with the ketchup and mustard. And that's all the details for this set. And don't get me wrong, this is an amazing set. Definitely my favorite set in my collection. Do I think it's worth $300? Yes, especially with all the minifigures in this set. I definitely do recommend getting it. Unfortunately, it is a Lego store exclusive, so you can't pick it up at your retail stores, but you can order it on Lego.com. So I definitely do recommend picking this up if you're interested in this set and can afford it, of course. Thanks for making it to the end of this video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the like button. And thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time.